All right, everyone, we are live. Let me make sure. Yep, we are live over on YouTube. I'm going to make an announcement over on my original Big Discussions 76 channel, and then we will jump in. We're going to go for about an hour because I think I want to go see the Doctor Strange movie this afternoon. My brother inspired me to go see it. All right, so make this announcement. C is here in the chat. What's going on, C? All right, I just shared that. Okay, I see one of my Michigan football people is here. All right, let me get rid of this ad. So we have C. He says, "What's good, Doc? I haven't watched a Marvel movie in forever. I haven't even watched the Avengers." Oh, well, this Doctor Strange movie, I think it's going to be pretty good. Yakov22 says, "Good afternoon, Anwar. I'm working now and hope to listen in to the discussion." Hey, Yakov, very much appreciated. I built this channel with Michigan football. I've been telling you guys I've been working on this book, and occasionally I go over to basketball and Buffalo basketball. So any of my Michigan football people who will listen and watch this, I very much appreciate that. So, guys, I have a special guest today, Tim Winn. You guys have heard about Jason Rowe on this channel, and as you'll see, the two they were the two I want to say preeminent, but they were the two top guards in Western New York in Section 6 basketball at the same time. They're peers. They're both trainers, and they're talking about a collab. And I've written about both of them. I interviewed both of them. So Tim agreed to come over today. I finally got him, and we're going to do a Q&A talking about the LaSalle days, and also we're going to talk about train to win and what it's been like for him being a trainer and a coach. C says, "Doc, rocking the Buffalo, rocking a Buffalo Braves shirt." Yeah, see, that's right. Whenever I talk basketball, particularly Buffalo basketball, I usually put on one of my Buffalo Braves shirts. Okay, so I created some. I told Tim I created some snippets. I used some of the audio from our interview from a few years ago, to create an intro and a couple of interludes throughout this interview. So I'm going to play the first one, and then we'll start. The super chat is live. If you want to make a donation there, if not, my Cash App and PayPal are here. If you want to make a donation, you're under no pressure to do so. So I'm going to play this short intro, and then I'm going to make two more announcements. Then I'll bring Tim in. So here we go. I was keeping an eye on what was happening with you guys, and I thought that I thought Jody was going to be the next player up to start next to Carlos, and all of a sudden I'm seeing this Tim Winn guy, and I'm like, well, who's this guy? So you say you Jody, and who else?
Me, Jody, Fat Jack, Tim. This is what Fat Jack, as we call him.
Why'd you call him Fat Jack?
What's that?
Why'd you guys call him Fat Jack?
Oh, that's his name. Like, everybody knows him as Fat Jack. Like, if somebody calls him Tim, it's rare. Like, he's Fat Jack. Like, if you're around Niagara Falls, everybody, Niagara Falls, Buffalo, he's Fat Jack.
Okay.
So that's been his name since he was younger, which is funny because he was the skinniest kid I know growing up.
You know how it is to get a taste of something, like really, really good, right? So
yeah.
for me, I was young, right? And I kind of rode, like me and Jody, we kind of rode Carlos' coattail to Glen Falls. You know, as much as we may have contributed, it wasn't our team. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like his talent was on a different level, and nobody in Western Europe can deal with him, and that kind of carried us. I mean, we had a good overall team. Like Chris, Frank, Todd, Wood, and all those guys are pretty good, right? But I felt like for us, me and Jody, we kind of rolled Carlos' coattails to Glen Falls. So, and I was like, man, like for me as a young kid, I was like, okay, I didn't know anything else except for Glen Falls, right? We got close the year before, like lost to John Wallace. Right, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm at worst, I'm supposed to be in this Far West game. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Against the Rochester team. So then to beat the Rochester team the next year and go to Glenn's, we were like, you know what? This is where we're supposed to be. Like we're supposed. If we play anything like we did last year, it's supposed to end like this, getting to Glen Falls.
All right, everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76 Sports. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. I'm sorry, please like this stream because I'm streaming live. Excuse me. Please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. The link is in the description box below. I have a bunch of different things in the description box today. But as you know, I'm a YouTube content creator and a writer. If you click on that link, you'll see a greeting here, a 2-paragraph greeting, and the subscription button is there at the bottom. You just click that and enter in your email address, and I won't give your information away to a third party. But this will allow you to track me as a YouTube content creator and as a writer. I'm working on a book project. It's called The Engineers, a Western New York Basketball Story. That is below in the description box as well. This page is actually on my writer's blog, Big Words Authors. And if you scroll to the bottom, I'm just going to do this really, really quickly. If you scroll to the bottom, there's a description of the book. All of the promotional materials, well, the majority of the promotional materials that I created are down there as well. So there's some video and all of the print interviews here, and essays and interviews. Interviews and essays. So there's Jason Rowe. There's Tim. They're right there. It's a 2-parter. Damian Foster. That's a 2-parter. Carlos Bradbury. That's a 2-parter. Tim and Carlos's coach, Pat Monty. There was so much content there. I made that a 3-parter. So that's all there. And I just published another promotional essay this week on this guy. And Tim is actually quoted in this essay. A lot of the guys are quoted. The great Ritchie Campbell. For folks not from Western New York, you might be wondering who Ritchie Campbell is. But for those of us who are in and around the Western New York high school scene, the Western New York high school basketball scene in the late 80s and early 1990s, you heard the legend or you saw the legend of Ritchie Campbell personally. So I wrote this essay that's below. But with that being said, let me bring up my guest, the great Tim Winn. Tim, how's it going?
Everything's going good, man. Thanks for having me on today.
No problem. Thanks for being here. All right, well, let's start. I think you saw that little snippet I created. I have 2 more. Let's start with the LaSalle basketball days. I don't know if you had any thoughts looking at that snippet, but you had the distinction of going to the Final Four in Glen Falls 4 years as an explorer, which is astounding. As an adult, do you reflect on those years? If so, what do you think about those these days? When you look back.
For me, obviously, the older I get, the more I reflect. Right. sometimes I would just pause myself, like, and just think back on that experience, right? Just from a team perspective, right? I just, how blessed I was to be a part of that program, right? It's, again, the people don't really, it's not too many people that remember second place, right? So for me, the fact that we won a lot, I think it just, that's what allows me to really poke my chest out the most, right? Is that we were really, really successful. I believe I lost 10 games my entire high school career. So whenever, people are having debates, or, just guys get older and we just talk a lot of trash back and forth, I always lead with, well, we didn't lose to many people, and it's kind of hard to argue or debate against that. Like, that's a factor. Forget the scoring, forget the defense, but the fact that we just won a lot, means the most to me as I get older, right? And like you said, we were able to go to Glens Falls 4 years in a row, which is unheard of. I saw a listing of the all-time Glens Falls teams. It was like maybe 6 teams, and I made one of the teams. But as I was going through all of the names, there's a lot of NBA guys on that list, and I was just like, well, there's not many guys, or no one else on the list. Probably maybe one other guy had been to Glens Falls 4 straight years, right? So it's really some exclusive company to be in. And again, as I get even older, right, I might exaggerate the story a little bit, but the fact that I went 4 years in a row is always going to be my lead conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say, just for context, for those unfamiliar with this, just to make the regional 4 years, I mean, for I think Coach Monty, I want to address him respectfully. Coach Monty, his LaSalle teams made the regional 10 years,
right,
in a row. That means LaSalle was the best basketball team, the best Class A, well, arguably the best team in Western New York, because you guys were always up there with St. Joe's and Traditional and Nichols. But to be the best Class A team for 10 years from Erie and Niagara County, that's astounding.
Right. It is. I mean, just 10-peat sounds crazy, right?
Yep.
But that's what I meant by I was blessed to be a part of that program, because it was already established, right? It wasn't going to grow or fall based on my performance, right? It was already a household name. And again, the tradition was already established. So I was able to walk into an environment that had high expectations, right? Based on the recent history anyways. And it was, the blueprint was already laid out. So, I didn't have to reinvent any wheel. I was able to just walk into this program and grow, right? I was, I played JV in 7th grade, varsity in 8th grade, and I was able to just grow within this program that had already had a huge name for itself. But 10 years in a row is unheard of.
Yeah. And again, for context, everyone, so, I mean, I'm sure this is a sports channel, so everyone knows the significance of what the regional is, but that's, in this instance, that means LaSalle was in contention every year to be the best team from the Buffalo area and the best team from the Rochester area to represent that region in Glens Falls. So they were always there with that berth on the line. So that was very, very impressive. And some players in that era in Section 6, before they made it an open format, so no matter how bad your team was, they could get in. Some teams were never sectional eligible. Some teams, to become sectional eligible was a big deal itself. But for you guys, the bar was so much higher. That's something I gleaned from my research, talking to you and Carlos and Coach Monty and Jason over at Buffalo Traditional. The bar was just so much higher.
It was like we were, I would say we were almost brainwashed into believing that the local competition didn't matter, right? It's once we got to that Rochester game in regionals, that's where we belonged, right? We belonged there every year. And if you didn't get that far, the season was a failure, right? So competing in that game to have a chance to go compete for a state championship was all we knew, right? So that the bar was that high. It's basically the Rochester game win that game and get to states, right? That was our story for 10 years straight.
Okay. So Tim, one thing I don't know if your phone is sitting on or your computer, but your camera's shaking just a little bit.
Hold on. I'm gonna move to a better spot.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second.
All right. We got the big bad wolf there in the chat, who is also a LaSalle alum. I think he was there for the Federation title with Eric Gore and Michael Starks. Herbert Lewis. He says, "What's up, C?" And this gentleman here, Tim. This gentleman, I know him from Twitter. We haven't met in person yet, but C, he's a Western New Yorker. He's a fan of yours as well. So,
my man, how you guys doing?
I was sure to send him the link and say, "Hey, I got Tim Winn live."
Yeah,
at lunchtime on Friday. Okay, so you know what, Tim? With that, I'll play the second snippet. I'll play the one later on because I think that one delves. It lends itself more to the training and the coaching. But I'll play this one. I thought this was another powerful set of things you said during our discussion.
Right, he was. Well, I mean, obviously, if you come into it and you know his reputation, you've seen all of the highlights, you McDonald's All-American, top point guard in the country. So for me, I was like, man, you know what? There's going to be no better test to really let me know what level I'm on than to going up against this guy, right? So I'm like, I'm going to try it all, right? Mm-hmm. Whoever I think I am, I'm going to try it in this game. And playing against the best should expose what you need to work on. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we locked him down, right? He's averaging, 30 points a game, 30-some points a game, and we held him to, I think, 12 points?
12 points.
Right, complete lockdown, right? So for me, that was the springboard for me in my high school career. Because I was like, if Stephon Marbury can't score on me, nobody's scoring. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That was the mentality, and I was like, it didn't matter who you were, right? I carried that with me for that entire summer, right? ABCD basketball camp, like everywhere I went, I was like, listen, Stephon Marbury can't score me. There's nobody that I'm bumping into scoring on me. And it carried into my senior year. Like we lost probably my two favorite players all the time that I play with, and Jody Carnes and Terry Rich. They both graduated after my junior year. So again, nobody's really expecting us to go to Glens Falls and win another state championship my senior year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So no one was looking to get on ESPN.
No, not at all. And this is the thing. So when you have so many great teams that's been there before you,
yes,
you're not really competing against Western Europe. We never really competed against the best teams in Western Europe. We never came into a season saying, "Hey, we got to be as good as traditional." Like we were trying to beat history, right? Let's see. And I'll give you a prime example. After Carl Bradbury's team, like his senior year,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
we graduated like eight or nine seniors.
Yeah,
nobody gave us a chance the next year to come back and do any work, right?
Yeah.
So it was the perfect opportunity for guys like me, right, entering my sophomore year, so in his junior year, to really take our claim, right? We didn't care about being better than St. Joe's or traditional. We were like, yo, can we be better than the team that we were on last year? There was not one game within Western New York that was going to say take us up too high or bring us down too low, no matter what the results were, because our goal every year was Glens Falls. Right, like when you plan for a state championship, mm-hmm. like when that's your goal, it's kind of like the Cavs right now. So yeah, Boston's tough, right? They were tough. Indiana was tough, but for the Cavs, it's championship or bust, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So for us, it's like once you get to Glens Falls a couple of times, you're not really accepting anything else. No matter what the ups and downs are during the year, your eye is still on that prize. That's all that really matters to you. Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone. Sorry if that one was kind of long, but Tim gave so much valuable game during that discussion. C says, okay, so I guess you guys were on the court together. He says, Tim Winn broke my right index finger back in the early 2000s playing at the YMCA in Portage. He crossed me and I reached. I learned my lesson and found out who Tim was. Okay.
Man, that's crazy. So, not sure if you had a question going in after that, but that's what's unique about Niagara Falls and Niagara Falls basketball is for us, it didn't matter where we were playing at. It was on no matter who. It could have been 15 guys 45 and older that I was playing with when I was in college, and I would have went after them the same way as if I was competing for a state championship. So see, listen, I apologize for your finger, but listen, once you stepped on that court, it was on, right? It was on.
Okay. Do you want to say a few words about matching up with Steph before he went off to Georgia Tech? And because I think I was in college at that time, and I heard the stories of you guys matching up. Do you want to talk about that? Say a few words about that, or?
Yeah. So I mean, if I'm being 100% transparent, it wasn't just me locking Stephon Marbury up. I got all of the credit for it, right? Georgia Tech offered me a scholarship a week later just based on that game. But Coach Monty designed the perfect defense, right? And it required for not only for me to be at a high level of defending him, but Jody Crimes as well, right? So Jody Crimes played a huge part in that as well. No one really talks about that in the papers or historically, right? They'll just say that Tim locked up Stephon Marbury, but it was a true team effort. There's not going to be one person that locks up Stephon Marbury, right? He was the best in the country at that time. Again, I when it was my turn, I did a really, really good job, right? And I was rewarded with a scholarship offer from Georgia Tech because of that. But he was at that point, he was the best that I had ever played against, right? He can do everything, right? He can shoot, he can pass, he was strong, right? And that was just for me. I was like, you know what? Locally, I'm known for my defense, but this is different, right? So, but let's put it to test. Like I'm gonna walk out here with the same confidence that I walk out against anybody. Like, mind you, 2 years prior to that, I had to guard Carlos Bradbury every day in practice. So like I've been through the trenches, right, within my own program, right? If I'm a little freshman and I have to guard Carlos Bradbury, who's at this time was the player of the year at All Western New York, right? So that kind of gave me a lot of practice going into these moments where now I'm seeing Stephon Marbury, who's the best point guard in the country. And again, historically, like I get all of the claim and all of the fame for that game, but it was really a great defensive scheme that we put together, and it required for just more than me to be on point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to for everyone, my print interview with Tim, it's below in the description box. It's a 2-parter. We talk about some of this, but since he's here live, I think it's cool to just kind of revisit it. I want you to keep in mind, everyone, when I was a sophomore at Hutch Tech, we talked about Carlos Bradbury. There was a veteran LaSalle team that was there, that was seasoned. And then they graduated, and then not being familiar with all the players, because Niagara Falls, I didn't realize until I did this research that Niagara Falls was its own little basketball ecosystem. We'll call it an ecosystem, its own little basketball tribe. It was very different than Buffalo's. I think in Buffalo, everything was kind of all over the place. But you guys, with the baby leagues, you guys had your own little basketball tribe. So if you weren't familiar with that, you're thinking, okay, LaSalle's graduating all these guys, they're gonna fall off. They're gonna have to reload. But no, you guys came in, you, Jody, Terry Rich, and when you think about Tim and Jody, think about lightning quickness. Quick feet, quick hands, steals, getting out of transition. Talk a little bit about did you guys know you guys were just gonna pick up the baton from those guys and just keep going, or did you guys have something to prove, or what was that like?
So it's a combination of things. Like for one, we grew up together, like you mentioned, biddy league. So it's not like we were strangers to each other at all. Like I already knew Jody's game, I already knew Terry Rich's game. Like we knew each other, right? But from playing with each other in biddy leagues and then on JV as well, right? So we were teammates there as well. So our JV program is a mirror of our varsity program, right? So it's not really a teaching point once we got to varsity. It's pretty much get in where you fit in, right? So from that perspective, it became, how much of a competitor are you, right? How can you carve out your own space in this right now, right? So for us, that's what it was. Like we graduated all of those seniors, and we heard the whispers about it was over with, right? And truthfully, on paper, it was supposed to be over with, right? If you think about the team that we had when I was a freshman and what we lost, right? And then me coming back as a sophomore, who's not established, right? I averaged like 5 points a game as a freshman. Jody was entering his junior year, and again, he might have averaged like 6 points a game as well. So we were good to us, but we were not established, right? So we didn't. I mean, truthfully, we didn't know how it was going to go, but the bar was set so high that we had something to work towards, right? And we knew that coming back to varsity, we didn't really have any bragging points because we didn't carry the team ourselves, right? So it was our turn now. So like that, to me, you don't need much motivation than that in a program like LaSalle, right? It's your turn. What are you going to do with it, right? You don't want to mess this up, right? The tradition is strong, right? You don't want to be the team that dropped the ball. So that in itself, it sparked the fire in us, and we stepped on the court fearless, right? Because the only thing we thought about was, hey, if we don't do what we need to do today, then our banner's not going up there, right? What are we going to do to get our banner up there so they can say our name in Western New York? So that was the motivation, and it kind of like that drove us. That drove us, and it took us all the way back to Glens Falls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I'm going to break that down a little bit. It matters that, number one, you guys all knew each other. Number one,
Yep.
You guys have played in the biddy leagues. You knew Jody's game. Jody knew your game. And in the interview, you said you guys were, would play video games over each other's house with Carlos. So everybody knew everybody.
Yep.
But so you guys didn't have to kind of come together as strangers and gel, because you guys already knew each other and you guys already knew the culture that Coach Monty had established, and you guys knew what the expectations were. Right.
It speaks to how important off the court bonds are, right? We grew up together, so a lot of the chemistry on the court is a reflection of the time that we spent off the court, right? I knew what made these guys happy. I knew how competitive they were, right? I knew how much it meant to them to want to win, right? So these are things that, I knew where Terry Rich likes to get the ball at, right? I knew what Jody's going to do 10 times out of 10 before he even does it, right? So these things are just based on us growing up together and us having these conversations, right? Like, for instance, like if me knowing that Magic Johnson was Jody's favorite point guard, I'm already knowing that Jody's looking for me on the wing, right? Like that's his favorite. He's looking to distribute the ball, right? So when you least expect it, you better be ready, right? So you just know these things coming into it, and then again, so that competitive part, you couldn't play for LaSalle if you didn't play defense, right? So we lost all of those seniors, but what we gained was 4 little guards that were lightning quick, and we're going to play defense, right? If we didn't have anything else, we're playing 94 feet defense, right? So that was kind of our claim to fame, and we won a lot of games based on our defense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to read some of these comments here in the chat, but one of my favorite channels now in the sports space, and this relates to what you just talked about, there's a channel called Stunted Growth. It's been out for a while, but this guy, he has documented and tracked all the players who, made it to college, made it to the NBA, but didn't make it for whatever reason. And I'm just saying that to say that it matters the situation that you're in. It matters the players that you play with. It matters the chemistry you have with those players. You could be the most talented guy. You can be the most driven guy. But if you're not with a group who is equally motivated, selfless, and dedicated to the goal, then it's not going to make a difference.
You're right. You're right.
Herb says, Biddy 217, the cupboard was never bare. Okay. C says, question for you, Tim. You're 6th on the assist leader for St. Bonaventure. That being said, have you ever wanted to go back and coach there? Also, If you could coach any team and level, who would you like to be a coach for?
Well, to talk about St. Bonaventure first, I think about that a lot. Not so much, me wanting to have the opportunity today, but when I think about my career after Bonnie's, I always think about, like, what if I would have chose coaching, right? What if I'd have joined Jim Barron's staff at St. Bonaventure, right? Then that's 22 years ago, right? So I would be considered an experienced coach by now. But in today's world, I just, the life that I live right now, coaching is a lot. It's not just, designing plays and, and having guys come out and perform. It's you take the job home every day. And you take every kid home every day. And at this point in my life, there's a certain peace that I get when I walk through the door, right? Because I don't have to bring anybody in the house with me. You know what I'm saying? So for me, like, I wouldn't want to coach right now in my life, because it requires too much of, I would have to give up a lot of my peace, put it that way, right? I would have to give a lot of that up. I like being able to come and go as I want to. And, I have the utmost respect for coaches, because, again, they bring every kid in their program home every day, right? And that's a lot, right? So you eat, you sleep, you breathe nothing but basketball 24 hours a day. Whereas in the life that I'm living right now, I train kids, but as soon as I'm done training them, that's it, right? I get to go home and I don't have to take them through my front door with me. So it's a huge difference, one from the other. But, like, if I would have started, say, right away back in 2000, then we probably, would have a different discussion right now about how I feel about coaching. But zero interest today. It's a lot that goes with it. That's why I have, again, the utmost respect for anyone at any level of it, right? So high school ball, right? You can ask Jason, right? It's a lot that goes into it. You can ask Carlos. It's a lot that goes in to even that level, right? And the higher level you get, the more time you're having to spend, right? So, I'm a family guy now. My son plays baseball, right? There's no way that I get to go to his practices or get to go to his games if I'm coaching basketball at a high level right now. It completely removes that dynamic out of my house. And that's one of my most joyous moments, right? In the day that I get to wake up, do my job, and then go watch him practice, or, travel to Florida with him next month for a baseball game, right? Or a baseball tournament, right? Mm-hmm. I get to see my wife when I want to see my wife. You know what I'm saying? So those are things that I value right now at my age, that I wouldn't really trade in for anything.
Yeah. And if you just break down everything a coach has to do, there's the X's and O's. There's, in some instances, you have to play psychologist.
Yes.
You have to play motivator.
Right.
You have to, in some instances, depending upon the neighborhood, you have to be another parent.
Yes.
To those kids. You have to make sure their grades are on point.
Right.
There are unexpected things you have to deal with, like injuries, or maybe a kid not passing his math class. And yeah, that's a lot.
It's babysitting, right? And again, I'm not saying that to diminish the job that's done, right? But for me, from the seat that I'm sitting in, when I watch all of these coaches have to do all of those things, it feels like babysitting right now. And I'm like, I don't have the energy. I know I don't have the natural energy to have to perform those duties on a day-to-day basis. Maybe I can do it Monday, maybe again on Thursday, but every day of the week, you have to be in that role. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm. And then we're going to move on, because we're 30 minutes in. C says also, and this is probably another major dynamic here, parents can kill your coaching career like they did Sal at Niagara Falls High School. Yeah, parents can definitely put their hands in things and muddy things up for their kid and for the coach.
Yeah, I just think that we're in an era right now where it's just more parent involvement. That's all, right? Whether it's negative or positive, there's just no other way to look at it, right? When I was young and I played ball, my parents were not involved at all, right? So so today feels aggressive, right? Because it goes from not seeing some parents at all to parents are really have their hand heavy in that dynamic. again, I don't have an opinion about it either way. I think that, everyone involved, whether it be a coach, whether it be a parent, whether it be a kid, I think people have to position themselves to do what's best for them, right? Niagara Falls is not a place where 1,000 college coaches are just showing up at our doors, right? So, if we went through a long period of time where the recruitment stopped or fell off, right? I think that after that super team in Niagara Falls with Paul Harris, Johnny Flynn, they had like 7 Division I players, that level dropped off big time, right? So I think that once that level dropped off, I think a lot of guys in the city stepped up and they started doing more for the youth, right? Like Carlos Bradbury or Roddy Gale, they started training kids younger, right? And their kids were a part of that movement. So it's hard to be that hands-on every day with your kid, to say at 5 or 6 years old, and then to back away from it, right? So I completely get it, right? There's no way that if I was a baseball coach and I trained my son from 5 years up all the way to high school, that it would be an easy transition just to back away from it, right? So obviously there's it's conflict in that at times. People bump heads, there's disagreements. Again, I would never say that it's the heart of any parent, right, to have that level of conflict with any coach, right? Obviously you're going to have disagreements, but I don't think that the intention coming in or walking away was ever with ill will, right? No matter how many disagreements they may have had or arguments they may have had, I don't think that the intent was ever ill will. I just think that some things are just meant to go in the direction that they went in, right? And again, here we are, right? Sal's no longer coaching, and I love Sal. He's like a family member to me. And the parents that left, their kids are doing great, right? So it's just one of those things, and again, we just somehow just have to move forward from it. That's it.
Okay, and we're talking about Sal Constantino.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, all right. See, you have some more questions for Tim, but let me slip this one in. So, Tim, I see we're Facebook friends, and I've seen you. I think I've seen you be inducted into multiple halls of fame. Can you talk about those? I know one was the St. Bonaventure Sports Hall of Fame, but how many have you been inducted into?
So I will be this year. I will be inducted into the Greater Buffalo Sports Hall of Fame. I think that just from a names perspective, that has to be the biggest one, right? Because there's guys like Bob Lanier, Jim Kelly, right? Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith. So these are, it includes all sports levels in Western New York, right? So if you've played sports in Western New York in any capacity, right? So there's guys that played in the Buffalo Sabres, right? The Bills, right? So every level of it, if you're from the area as well. So that one is like, it kind of floored me, right? Because besides those older names, I don't know of anyone, right? Especially from my city or Buffalo, that's been inducted, right, in my era of sports. So it's one of those truly humbling moments, and it's and I'm still kind of celebrating it right now, even though the ceremony's not probably until November. So that one's this year. St. Bonaventure Sports Hall of Fame, and then I'm in Niagara Falls Sports Hall of Fame 3 different times, right? So I'm in there individually. And then my teams from my junior and my senior year are also inducted into that Hall of Fame. So it's five Hall of Fames, right? And again, it sounds crazy to say it. I said it to myself the other day, and I was like, because I hadn't even thought about being in 4 Hall of Fames prior to this one right here, right, coming up. And I was like, wow, 5 Hall of Fame, because you don't dream about these things when you're in the mix. Like when you're playing ball, I was never going on the court saying, you know what, let me come out here and play well so I can be in the Hall of Fame somewhere in the future. It never crossed my mind, right? So this is a older me celebration. You know what I'm saying? Because I never thought about it when I was actually playing the game, right? I just wanted to win a lot, right? Whoever was in front of me, I wanted to win, right? And I wanted that to be the story. So this is kind of the end result of all of that.
Okay. Wow, that's very, very impressive, Tim. Very impressive. Because you're in there with Jim Kelly and Bruce Smith and those guys.
Yeah, and that list is nuts. It's nuts. I ain't gonna lie. I read through the list a couple of times just in disbelief.
Are players like Randy Smith in there, or
I think Randy Smith is in there. Like there's so many like guys on that level. I think he is in there. But I'd have to double check, right? But yeah, so it's that level of talent.
Okay. I'm going to ask this question. This one is off the script, and I'm going to ask C's question. Then I'm going to play my last snippet from our first interview because I think that one steers us nicely into training and player development. Okay. Was there anything, Coach Monty, when you were under his tutelage, was there anything he stayed on you about? Like, Tim, you got to develop this. Tim, you got to develop that. Tim, you got to stop gambling so much or gamble more. Was there anything he stayed on you about?
So it's when I think back on it, it really, he's a perfectionist. Yes. Let me just say that, right? And he's a no nonsense guy. So it's moment to moment. He never drew out a plan for me. He just threw me in the fire, right? So 8th grader, I'm playing varsity in 8th grade, right? Again in 9th grade, where he just demanded for you to compete at a high level. And I'll give you a Coach Monty story that is hilarious to me to this day. So my senior year, we're playing against North Tonawanda. Mm-hmm. And I think I got like it's like probably the third quarter. I got like 35 points. The other point guard on the other team has not scored one bucket, right? I'm just completely locking him down. He scores 2 points. His first 2 points might have been at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And Coach Monty calls a timeout and curses me out, right? Benches me, takes me out of the game. And I'm like, dude, what's wrong? Right? And he was like, I can't believe you let him score on you. And I'm like, it's the fourth quarter. He scored one time. Right. And again, that's what kind of coach he was, right? He wasn't going to coach you according to what mood you might be in, right? Once the bar was set and he was able to pinpoint what your talent level was, psychologically, he wasn't letting you drop off of that, right? So a kid who's nowhere near me talent-wise scoring on me one time was a big deal, right? And for me, I didn't even, and in the moment, I thought he lost his mind, right? I'm like, he scored one time, but older me understands it. You know what I'm saying? And you're grateful to have people hold you to that type of standard, right? So I might sarcastically say, hey, no one can score on me, right? But that's not really realistic, right? Someone's going to score a couple points, right? So, but that was an example of someone scoring on me one time, and Coach Monty cursed me out about it.
All right, guys. For those of you unfamiliar with Coach Monty, my print interview with him is below as well. And I did a LaSalle stream with a bunch of the players. I think it was December 2020. Carlos came in for a minute. We didn't get you for that one. Maybe we'll do it again because some of my non-Western New York folks actually enjoyed that. But this is my favorite Coach Monty picture here.
Yeah. That's it.
This one right here, he's confronting the referee. I love that picture. That was a fun interview with Coach Monty. And Tim, I got to show the John Wallace picture, man, because you guys, since you mentioned your 8th grade, that was another thing. You were on the sectional roster when you guys played Greece Athena, so you got to see a lot up front as an 8th grader.
Yep.
But everybody, the three of you mentioned John Wallace like the man, and he thought he was that guy. And anyway,
nah, he was different. He was, he's one of my good friends today.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Because I was on my way to Syracuse. I was supposed to go to Syracuse, so I had been on probably 30 unofficial visits to Syracuse. Right? John Wallace, Lawrence Moulton. These are like my guys. Right? Like Lazarus Sims. Like I've spent time with these guys on campus a lot. Right? And because that's where I was going to go. Right? It was going to be Syracuse. If not Syracuse, it was going to be Georgia Tech. Right? So St. Bonaventure got the steal of a lifetime. On that one. Right? Which is a story for another day. But yeah. So John Wallace, that's one of my guys. He was that guy. And if it wasn't for him, I would have been to Glens Falls 5 straight times.
Yeah. Yakov 22 says, this is one of my Michigan football guys. He says, the LaSalle stream may have been your best video ever. Wow. By the way, this is also a good one. Okay. I was going to say something else. What's interesting is I did a stream about 2 years ago. This is in large part, Tim, a Michigan football channel. I'm trying to grow a basketball crowd, but for the most part, it's a Michigan football channel. So I did a stream about 2 years ago, It was called a look back at our favorite NCAA tournaments of all time. So I did do something on the 1996 Syracuse team, which talked about John Wallace's heroics, and I cut that piece off. And re-uploaded it by itself, and some people have been watching that. So John Wallace has his own following as well.
No, for sure, as he should.
C says, Tim, if social media existed in your day, do you think you would have been higher on a recruitment level? I see a lot of high school hoopers who have a crazy hype level and fan base that can convince.
I actually don't. Like, for me, because social media may have been here, but I'm also from the era of basketball where you had to check ball. You had to play against people, right? So that's the difference. This day and age, you can post videos right now or highlight videos, and people love it, right? And your popularity grows, but it doesn't speak to scholarship opportunities, right? Like it speaks to likability, right? You may have 1,000 people review your video and tell you how great you are, but there's something about checking it up, right? There's something about actually playing the game. So I'm not sure what impact social media would have had directly on my game, but for me personally, like the greatest joy always came from traveling and playing against whoever they said was the best and being able to compete at that level. To me, that's how I got my offers, right? ABCD is one of them. You had guys like Kobe Bryant, right? It was at camp, and you had guys like Speedy Claxton. You had guys like Ed Cota. So you had the best of the best at camp, right? So my stock went through the roof, right? After the Stephon Marbury game, right, versus Lincoln. And then at ABCD, right, where everyone was there, right? That, to me, that controlled, the end result in regards to how many scholarship offers. I probably had 60 or 70 offers, right, coming out of high school. And that's without social media. And I truly don't think social media helps that, right? It makes you more popular, right? But I don't think it helps from a college coach perspective, because pulling in a kid who's popular on social media doesn't mean that he's going to help you save your job the next year. You know what I'm saying? He has to be able to play the game, right? And he has to prove that he can play.
Yeah. Well, two things there. After just interviewing Coach Monty, I don't think he would have gone for that. He's a no-nonsense guy. I don't think he would have sat by and watched any of his players' heads get so big because they have a big Twitter or Instagram following, number one. And number two, what stood out to me from our interview was that it seems like none of you guys were looking to be the star, quote unquote. You guys were all in for the team. And that trips up a lot of teams, is that one guy wants to be the star, or multiple guys want to be the star, and they can't share the ball. They can't work together. So that stood out to me about your group. No one was looking to get on ESPN per se.
Yeah, I think so. A couple of things. I think, for one of Coach Monty's greatest skill sets is adaptability. So I can't say that 100% that he would frown upon us being a part of some social media, right? He's the greatest adapter that I've known, right? On the fly, right? He can take a team like Carlos' senior year and have an entire system built around that, lose everybody, and come back day one and have a system built around me and Jody, right? So his ability to adapt is unbelievable. But like you said, at the end of the day, it wasn't about the individuals on our team, right? We had a goal, and that was to win states. Right. So that's what drove us. Like, the individual accolades that came, like, that was cool. Like, I was never entering a year saying I want to be player of the year in Western New York. Right. I never I want to have 500 steals at the end of my career. Right. So these are just things that are tied to, the reward for winning. Right. Really. Right. And everyone on our team kind of carried that same mentality.
Okay. One last question before I play this last interlude. Did Coach Monty talk about getting the Glens Falls at the beginning of the season, or did he put that on the chalkboard to say, "Look, guys, this is what we're shooting for"?
He was straightforward. He, at the beginning of the year, he would say, "Hey, my tickets are already booked. I'm going to Glens Falls no matter what. Do you guys want to join me or not? It's up to you." He said, "My hotel is already booked. I'm going to watch. I'm going to Glens Falls no matter what." So for us, we were like, "There's no way you're leaving us at home," right? That was the reaction. There's no way we're staying home. So he left it like that every year. "My tickets are already booked to Glens. You can join me if you want to."
Okay. I don't know if you're familiar with the 7 habits of highly effective people training. We take trainings. I'm a federal employee, so we take all kinds of trainings. But one of the habits is starting off with the goal in mind. So it sounds like he started off with the goal in mind every season to get to Glens Falls and win it.
He did.
So everything else was just kind of a formality. Winning the NFL, the Niagara Frontier League, winning the Class A section, all that was just a stop along the way.
That was it. It's like Glens Falls is the carrot that you dangle in front of the rabbit. You know what I'm saying? And that was it, right? If you wanted to be held at the highest level of respect within our program, then Glens Falls has to be where you're trying to go. Right? If that's not where you're trying to go, then you're in the wrong program. And it's no knock on it at all, right? It's just you're either for this goal or this isn't for you.
Okay. So for everyone watching from another state, just wherever your Final Four was, just kind of extrapolate this back, whether you're in Ohio or Michigan or Texas. Yakov says, there is something special about high school sports. Even the bright lights and money of college and pro sports can't match those certain qualities. Agree. Okay, so I'm going to play this last excerpt here, and I think this, relates nicely to check ball and players being friends and social media. So here we go. This one is shorter.
Everybody's friends.
Everybody's friends.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves, and I swear to you, I love Jason. He's been my guy. We've been friends since we were little.
Uh-huh.
And I swear to you, when it came to checking the ball up,
yes,
he was my worst enemy. You know what I'm saying? Like off the court, he was my guy. Like I'm literally my guy. I love Jason, but I swear there's something missing in competition these days, right? It's where back in the day, if you put me and Jason in this era, we're like the rivalry to me, I don't think we would have been as good. Not I'm talking about mentally, right? We'd have been too cool with each other.
Yeah.
No, so, talent-wise, we'd have killed this and killed this day and age. But I'm just saying, I think one of the best things that we had in us was we were fierce competitors, right? Yes. And literally would go to war with each other and go get a burger later on.
Yeah. So Tim, is this a kind of a LeBron James, Kevin Durant thing where, today it's okay to go make a team versus building your own?
Yep, it definitely is. Everyone it always starts at the top, right?
Yeah.
So the players these kids look up to, they're all friends, right? Kevin Durant, LeBron James are really, really good friends.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. So for me, that would I could never be that good a friend with someone where it impacts my approach on the court.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who you are. I want to kill you on the court. Friends included, family included. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter. My mother couldn't get a bucket on me. But that, again, different eras, right? And like Jason said, that social media, the impact of social media, where now your person, it's required for you to have personality, right? Everyone wants to be cool now. It's just completely different than when we were young.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your game spoke for you. You didn't need social media. You didn't need to talk anywhere else. You're on the court, check it up, check ball. There was no greater voice than check ball.
All right, check ball.
Listen, you just that little snippet just made me want to go outside and grab the ball right now.
Okay, so for everyone watching, I've had Jason Rowe. I just sat down and talked with him in Buffalo a month ago. All this interconnects. All these guys know each other. The story I'm telling, all this interconnects. So we talked about coaching and how much of a commitment that would have been and how much of a commitment that is. But let's talk about training now. What made you decide to get into training? Then I'll ask you about what are you seeing from today's players? You give them the skills training, but how competitive are they? But first, what made you decide to get into training?
So, I actually trained before I moved down here to Charlotte, right? So Johnny Flynn. I used to have Johnny Flynn in the gym. I used to have guys like that in the gym at the Boys and Girls Club or at the Resource Center. And I was doing it for free, right? I was just doing it for free. And I just remember vividly like the impact that those sessions had on some of the kids back home, right? And Johnny's one of the most fierce competitors that I've ever met in my life. Even in a training session, right? It's the most elite level of just competitiveness within himself, right? So there was a huge takeaway from those days for me as a trainer. And I was like, if I'm going to ever do it again, like I know I have a message to pass, right? Not just from my experience, but from a player's perspective coming into a training session. I seen a player train at the highest level, right? And I saw what those results did, right? So to me, so when I started back up this past September down here, like I just couldn't get that off of my mind, right? So that was kind of driving me. And I was like, all I wanted to do was train maybe 1 or 2 kids to kind of share that experience, like take them through what I've been through, but also talk to them about the level at which you have to prepare, right? That preparation, the level of intensity and attention to detail that you have to bring even to a training session, right? And I knew that because I trained Johnny, and like Johnny was nuts in a training session. I mean, we might be in the gym 2 hours, and if you walked in the last 15 minutes, you'd have thought that we were in there for 2 days, right? That's just the amount of work that we would put in. So now, like when I wanted to train a couple of kids down here, so I was like, let me just reach out to my connections down here to get 1 or 2 kids. And it started like that, where I had 1 or 2. I advertised that I was going to do it. And before I even got to the point where I trained those couple of kids, let's say 2 or 3 times, I was up to 10 kids, right? Before I can train those 10 kids, I was up to 20 kids. Before I can train those 20 kids, I was up to 30 kids, right? And it was more so the resume spoke for itself. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the word of mouth, like what those 2 kids went through, their parent, it wasn't the kids, the parents ran and told everyone what they witnessed, right? And how their kids responded to it, right? Because it's not just training. You can get anyone to take you in a gym and say, hey, do these basketball drills, right? So it's not that. It's 4 years in a row going to Glens Falls that I'm bringing to a training session, right? There's the passion that goes into those 4 years that I bring into a training session, and I'm speaking that life into kids while they're training, right? We're not in here shooting jump shots today. We're in here getting buckets. That's a different mentality, right? Anybody can take you to the gym and just get up shots. Every rep has a purpose, right? So all of my kids throughout the entire sessions, I'm constantly asking them, who can guard them? Can anybody guard you? And everyone's answer is nobody. Nobody. So the mentality part of it is what's missing from the game. So I don't even have to talk about social media. I don't have to talk about how friendly people are anymore out loud, because I'm getting these kids in my session now and I'm brainwashing them, right, to be the best that they're going to be. But it has to be mentality first, right? It has to be driven off mentality first. In order for your skill set to reach a certain height, your mentality has to be locked in. Your mindset has to be there first, right? So like I just have all of these years of experience, whether I train Johnny or a bunch of kids back home, but my own experiences, like what allowed me to be successful. Like how does this guy have 500 steals in high school? You know what I'm saying? Right? With a nice coach who wouldn't even play me some fourth quarters, right? So how do you, it's a mentality, right? My mentality shows up first. Right. So because of that, I've won probably 50% of my games off mentality alone. But anyways, that's a huge part of the training. I wanted to give that to somebody. Right. So that's what got me started back up down here. And now it's out of control. I train probably 60 kids a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you strictly with boys, or do you do girls too?
So I started out on the boy side, and it was about 80-20. Right? 80% guys, 20% girls. And now that's flipped 80-20. Like I train more girls than I do guys right now.
Wow.
Yeah. And listen, and it's the same training. And that's why the girl side is growing so much. I'm not a girl trainer or a guy trainer. I'm a trainer. So after it was advertised that I'm training girls the same way that I train these guys, it took off. Right. So I have a girl who's young 7 years old. Right. And then I also have and that goes all the way up into college. I have a girl who's about to be a senior in college. Right. And everything in between. Like I train the #1 AAU team, girls AAU team in the country. It's called FBC. Their home base is in Atlanta, but the Charlotte affiliate, I train them every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm on retainer. Right. So, and again, that's 10 girls every Tuesday and Thursday, just in one session. Right. So if you do the research on FBC, they've had over 10 girls in the McDonald's All-American game in the last 2.5 years, right? In the last 2 years, right? 3 years, right? So the program in itself is aggressive. So they reached out to me. I didn't even go looking for them, but they had heard about the work. Matter of fact, Chris Meadows, who's a St. Bonaventure graduate, he's heavy in the girls' side of the game down here. But he plugged me in, right? They were looking for a trainer, and he was like, "Hey, Tim's available," right? And he tied me into that. And before you know it, it's regular now. But now that I posted and I've shared that I train them, I'm getting tons of high school girls that want me to train them now, just off of that, right?
Wow.
No, it's big time. You'd have to be at one of those sessions. It's probably the most intense training session with these girls that I have. Like it's next level for sure.
Okay, so you said it's flipped. I mean, what does that mean? Does it mean more girls are interested in basketball? Does it mean that, like, what does that mean? How do you interpret that?
So there's a gap. There's a gap in training. Most trainers are training boys, right? So I train a lot of boys. There's a lot of boys that I train, right? I'm taking a flight up to Rochester in 10 days to train a whole bunch of boys, right? But anyways, so there's a gap where girls are not getting the same training. They're not getting that same level of training. So here I am, and I'm doing that. So all that's really happening is I'm filling a gap that's out there. It's not like, I pulled a rabbit out the hat, right? It's literally these girls are yearning to get trained on that level and go through that same thing. And here I am. I just happen to be available to everyone.
Okay. All right. See, I'm going to save that question to the end because I want to get through these. We're just over an hour. And I want to I want to be respectful of Tim's time. So I ask Jason this all the time, and I think you spoke to it in that snippet. Do you still find it to be true today that the players today they want to be friends? I mean, and I think what you were saying, because back in the day, the players knew each other. Michael knew Charles Oakley, Magic knew Isaiah. They were friends. But when it was game time, I think what you were saying is when it was game time, all that's on pause. Do you still feel like they're too friendly, or?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be called an old man. Like I get called an old man when I speak about today's game versus our game. But I do think kids are too cool with each other now, right? And I'm not talking even off the court, right? For me, I'm not going to go in the gym and train with Jason. I'm not, and this is why, right? Because he's my competition. At the end of the year, they're going to say, who had a better year, Tim or Jason? If I'm in a gym training with Jason, then he sees everything that I'm working on. How do I create an advantage? How do I create an advantage with people around me if I'm in the gym with them all the time? There has to be some ability to separate, right? So I don't want to be like, and then I feel like my work ethic is different than a lot of people's work ethic, right? So I'm able to create more, right? Or progress more in my game. I don't want that secret out, right? Like listen, so Jason is my guy, but I don't want Jason drinking the same soup that I drink, right? In order for me to get better. How else am I going to move by him? And vice versa. How else is Jason going to move by me if we're doing everything together? Right. So that's from a physical advantage, right? But just even mentally, right? Let's just say that I feared Jason a little bit, right? Let's just say that I was like, man, I'm nervous. Every time I play against him, I'm nervous. And then I start training with him every day. And I'm like, oh, I don't have nothing to be nervous about anymore. Right. So there's something psychological in that. Whatever advantage I have over someone mentally, I'm not allowing you to erase that by coming beside me and training with me or being my pal. right? That's an edge that I have. There's a chip on my shoulder that I don't want you nowhere near how that got there, right? I'm 5'9". So how do you create a life where you get to go Division I, you get to play professional basketball, right, at this height? There's an edge, and there's something about my work that I do behind the scenes that I hold near and dear to my heart. I hold it so close to me that I don't want anyone else around to have any access to that, right? So being friends in this era, that may not exist, right? Or it would come off, it would rub people the wrong way for sure, right? In my era, it didn't, right? It's like, hey, listen, he's over there working on his game. I know Jason is working on his game, so I better get in the gym and work on my game, right? I know how good he is. If I want to be on that level or better, I better get in the gym, right? The buddy part of it erases that dynamic right there, right? And so that's my problem with it. You know what I'm saying? Like we're too good of friends for me to walk the other way and train on my own to come back and beat you. We're going to train together now. We're going to be in the gym together. So every move that you got that I might have heard about, I get to see it up close and personal now. All right. That's different. That's different.
Okay. Well, this definitely sounds like another approach to the saying that sports are 95% mental and 5% physical.
Absolutely.
So I've never heard this approach before, but I didn't grow up in the era of training. So,
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the last question, and you can talk about this as much as you want or as little as you want, but Jason and I did talk about a month ago, and he said you guys were thinking about doing something together. Do you want to say a few words about that, or if you guys are still in the planning stages, you don't have to.
So the thought is in the air, right? Obviously, there's work that goes into that. So if you just talk about just the thought of it, right? Me and Jason have been attached at the hip since we were kids, right? And it got to the point where you won't see a picture of him in a paper without me. You won't see my name in a paper without him. So we've always been attached, and we've always had access to our communities, right? So it only makes sense for us to give back on that level, right? Whether we do it, soon or later, right? The ideal of it, it's always pretty cool, right? For me to think about the careers that we've had, right? Jason played 55 years overseas, right? He just played, right, 1 million years of basketball. So to think about his resume and what he stands for, and and his ties into his community, like it wouldn't be a better person for me to throw a camp with than him. So again, we haven't started digging dirt yet. But again, the ideal of it's going to always be in the air.
Okay. All right. So your training, once again, is called Train to Win. Okay. Very clever name there. Where can people, I don't know if more people need to find you. Sounds like you have your hands full. But if people want to find you and ask you about it or maybe hire you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook under Tim Winn. And then you can find me on IG under train_2_win. That'll tie you right into me. Okay.
All right. I have 2 more comments here. See, this is a very specific question. He says, Tim, were you at the game when Flynn dunked on Mo Brown? NBA Mo Brown. I only heard stories about that dunk. I don't know if that was, I don't know which level that was at, but.
No, I was not at that game. I wasn't at that game, but of course I hear all about it. Usually when there's a big moment like that with anybody from our neighborhood, it's shared throughout the entire city.
Okay. And Herb, once again, who is a LaSalle alum as well. Everyone watching this who's not from Western New York, keep in mind that LaSalle no longer exists. There was a set of decisions made by the city of Niagara Falls, and there is a Walmart there now. So you can't go to that structure or even go in that nice brown gym anymore because it's no longer there. But he says Niagara Falls versus LaSalle, sworn foes for life. It's on no matter where we meet. Yeah, it was. From reading the newspaper clippings, you guys had a Duke, North Carolina,
Michigan,
San Francisco, Dallas.
Michigan, Ohio State.
Yep.
That. That's exactly what it was.
Rivalry going on there.
That's exactly what it was. It was the best times ever, right? Because it didn't matter really how either team was doing, right? Once we saw each other on that court, it was the entire city came out every time, right? It's probably the most missed thing ever in our city right now, right? Despite all of the success that we had once the schools combined, that rivalry game was everything for us, right? It was everything. So I miss those days.
Yeah, and just you guys had other competitive teams in that league as well, like Kenmore West and Kenmore East,
Nichols,
Grand Island. But you guys also had that rivalry in the city every year, where you guys played 2 to 3 times at least.
Yes, it was probably the most difficult games of the year, right? Because that's the one team, like locally, where you might lose your mind a little bit and take your eye off of Glens Falls, right? So now you have I remember those are some of my most uncharacteristic games, right? But you just get caught up in the emotion of it, and as soon as the game is over, you just wash your hands and get back on track. But it was like they were probably the funnest games throughout my entire high school time that I was able to play in was against Niagara Falls High School.
Okay. Well, Tim, I interviewed Darius Thomas.
Yep.
And LaSalle won the majority of those games. And he said the advantage you guys had was the coach.
Yeah, but and that, so now I like hearing those stories, because now you're rubbing a different part of my ego right now I'm tapped into. So we played those guys all summer long as well. So we didn't just beat them during the season. We beat them every time we played them. Mm-hmm. And that streak, we think we won probably 60 straight games, right? They had a ton of talent. Don't get me wrong, but we used to hate hearing that we only won because of Coach Monty. So in the summertime, it was intense, which did great for people working on their game. But we used to kick their butt in the summertimes too. He knows that.
Well, so then let me ask you: was it the chip on your shoulder about hearing that it was Coach Monty, or was it Coach Monty? Was it a mixture of the two? Which was it?
Listen, I had 500 steals in high school. A lot of them came off of Niagara Falls high school players, right? Coach Monty didn't tell me to go take the ball from nobody specifically, right? I was just in the starting lineup, and I seen somebody on the other side that couldn't dribble, so I was going to take that. I didn't need a coach to do that, right? That's me talking trash, though, right? Because I'm hoping that Darius Thomas, he catches that. That's my guy. He's one of my guys. I ain't gonna lie. He's super talented.
Yeah. Well, I'll post this to Facebook. I'll post the replay to Facebook. Yeah. But I think certainly from what I learned in my research, they had a number of coaches coming in and out over there. And again, Coach Monty sounded very thorough in his approach, structure, discipline, no nonsense, but it also sounds like he cared about his players. In my interview with Darius, it didn't sound like they had that type of thing over at Niagara Falls. So this is just me being, straightforward. We easily had the better coach. There's no debate about that, right? That's if you remove both rosters and just post the coaches, he's going to win that every time, right? He's going to win that coaching discussion every time. Again, in Niagara Falls High School, they had tons of talent. I'm just talking jump now because we won the games, right? That's just my bragging rights as an old man, but they had tons of talent. And I wouldn't dare say that if Pat Monty went there and coached versus us with their coaches, that it wouldn't have been more competitive. I'm not saying that we would have lost the game, but it would have for sure been more competitive, right? We might not have won 60 games straight, but it would have probably been like 59-2 or something like that, possibly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just got in my brief little 2 to 3 years playing, I just got a brief whiff of their talent. Will Cawley was there, my sophomore year. Jermaine Bradley was the leader of the team.
Nice.
So I just got a small peek at what the Power Cats had.
No, they had a lot of guys, right? I mean, you can list. There's a lot of guys that I can list that came through their program that were actually really good basketball players. Like I'm just talking trash right now, but truth be told, they had a lot of talent. And Darius, like LaDon is what we call him. He was one of the best to come through there as well. Darius Thomas for sure.
You guys call him Don?
LaDon.
LaDon.
Ladon, yeah, neighborhood.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm gonna make this last comment, and then Tim, if you have a parting shot, you can give that. But just going back to coaching, I think Tim talked about the rigors of coaching in terms of all the demands, but also there's a political component. So arguably, Coach Monty should have been, when they consolidated the schools, Coach Monty should have been the coach based upon his accomplishments. He should have been the new coach at Niagara Falls High School, the one that exists today. But there are things that even happen behind the scenes politically when it comes to who gets appointed coach of certain teams, and I think that happened there.
Yeah, I mean, listen. He's the coach in the history of Niagara Falls. Look, he's in the Greater Buffalo Sports Hall of Fame, right? I was at the ceremony some years ago, right? So again, he's the best coach that I've ever played for, hands down, right? Hands down. And his role in my career was huge, right? The role that he played in my progression was huge. I know for a fact that any kid that would have been in his presence, no matter where you're in school at, should have became a better player and better student, right? So with those two dynamics, when you, as a parent, when you send your kid into a program, right, those are two things that allows you to sleep at night. You don't have to worry about your kid's basketball, and you don't have to worry about his academics, as long, right? So you had a built-in mentor, you had an uncle in him, right? You had a coach in him. So all of these different dynamics that he brought to the table, that a lot of guys were able to benefit from. But yeah, that the politics in it were crazy. I think that anytime you beat up on somebody too many times, and and you're advertising it, how much superior we are. Some people didn't like that. That's my take. They were just tired of seeing him winning, right? So from a political standpoint, let's bring it into it all, right? And it's crazy that it went like that, because if you bring him in as the coach, I think Niagara Falls High School probably for sure has at least 5 or 6 more state championships, hands down, right? I'll argue that to the last day.
Okay. Well, Tim, do you have any closing thoughts or parting shots? Words of wisdom or anything?
I just not really sure how to label it. I'm just grateful that you allow me back on for another interview. It's always good to chat back and forth and just hear different perspectives. It also allows me to revisit some things historically that I, sometimes when you've done so much, you forget some things as well. You know what I'm saying? So when it's laid out in front of you, kind of gives you a chance to really appreciate it again. And I thank you for that. But that's it pretty much. You've given me a great trip down memory lane, and I wish you well with what you're doing. I hope that Michigan can, stay on the level that they were at last year, right? Keep it going. I know that makes you feel good, right? And probably motivates you to, put more content out there, like when they're playing well.
Yeah.
But anyways,
the content does really well when they lose too.
Yeah, absolutely. On the flip side of it, right? Absolutely. Yeah, I would think so. Right? Yeah. Without a doubt, though. But good luck to you in this lane, bro. And many more blessings to you. And again, thank you for having me on.
Well, you know what? Before we go, I just want to thank you. I told Jason that for this book, I mean, I didn't go on to become a basketball player. We all dream about things when we're young, but we realize our destinies are something different. I think mine was to be a writer. I appreciate you being a part of this research. There are things that I've learned from you and from the other guys that I wouldn't have known if you guys hadn't said, yeah, I'll talk to you about what happened. So I appreciate you, regardless of where the book ends up, if it's successful or if it isn't, I've been able to create a lot of things, a lot of writings and videos like this, I think that are helpful for people out there. And it gives you a chance to talk about what you're doing too. So. Absolutely, bro. I had fun doing it. Yeah. So if you're open to coming back sometime, I'd like to have you back. Maybe I talked about having you and Jason on at the same time. My platform is always open for you. No, for sure. And thank you. I appreciate that. And I would definitely come back. Just, give me a heads up, give me a shout out anytime. Okay. And when I post this to Facebook, I'll tag you and people can see it. C says, Much respect to you, Tim. I hope you've got a nice tuxedo being made for your accomplishment being inducted into the Western New York Hall of Fame.
I do. They take care of all of that. They fly. I mean, it's a really big deal. You know, they get your tux for you. They fly you out, put you in a hotel. They fly your entire family out. You can have all the friends you want come. They put them at tables. So I'll probably have a few tables set up with just nothing but friends or old coaches and things of that sort. But they're doing a pretty good job rolling the red carpet out. So I'm grateful. And again, I'm gonna have some fun with it.
Okay. Well, congratulations again.
Thanks, man.
Well, all right, everyone, I'm going to wind this string down. Thank you to everyone who watched. If you're watching on the playback, please like and also subscribe if you're new. The subscriptions are free, and those definitely help. I think I'm at 1,090 subs right now, so I'm 10 more away from that next milestone. So please do that. If you want to donate something to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are below in the description box. And also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC newsletter. That is here. The link is below in the description box. There's a greeting there, and then there's a subscription button there as well. This will allow you to follow me as not just a YouTube content creator, but also as a writer as well. And my print interviews with Tim, Jason Rowe, Damian Foster, Coach Monty, Carlos Bradbury, those are all below in the description box. And the page for my book project is there, and my most recent promotional essay, which looks back at Ritchie Campbell. Tim is quoted in there as well. All that's in the description box, so please take a look and please comment if there's something that you like. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.
All right, bro. Later.
All right, Tim.